Khabib was weighing in on Conor versus Poirier, and Khabib said if it ends in the first round, Conor wins. Anything beyond the first round favors Poirier. Now, I love debates before fights. I feel talking about it and trying to guess is why I like to go out and then watch the fight, to see if I'm right or the person that I was debating was right. Some people bet on fights because it makes it more interesting. That's my form of betting on a fight. I'm betting what's going to happen. I'm betting knowledge. When I have these debates and you share your opinion, for me to enjoy that conversation and to respect your analysis, you must base it on some kind of historical data. You must, or you lose me. That's not some rule. That's Chael's rule, right? I need some kind of historical data. Khabib is very founded accurately that the faster fights go, the better it is for McGregor. However, this one is a little bit more complicated. Does Conor McGregor have a left hand from hell? Precision, length, speed, power. Yes, he does. Can Conor end your night early with said left hand? Yes, he can. Does Conor have a secret left hand that the world does not know about? No. Did he once? Yes. That's one of the problems with being cloaked in success in today's world of everybody's got a camera. I got a camera right here. And you guys, same thing, right? The world has cameras, but this is very relevant. You'll hear about boxers from the 1900s all the way up to the 1950s. Some of them were champion for 10 years. And you think, well, that must be the best boxer of all time. Look at how long he held the belt. Well, it was a lot easier to hold a belt when people were watching you with their ears through a transistor radio. There's a rule out here in Oregon. This might be nationwide. An Oregon rule. Football. We cannot go out and videotape our competition and then study it. Did you know that? It is against the rules. That includes with what we have something called Pop Warner. When I was growing up, that was called Little League. You cannot do it with the 8-year-olds. You can't do it with the 5th graders. You can't do it with the 8th graders. You can't do it with the high school kids. It is illegal. Reason being is so effective. You start to learn what some plays are. You start to know what they're calling when the quarterback pops up and gives a signal. You could just shut them down. It's just too effective. The same thing goes in fighting, but it's not illegal. It's encouraged. It's smart. It's tactical. It's part of training camp. Your trainer will sit there. He'll watch a fight. He'll take notes. He'll rewatch the fight. He'll take notes. He'll put in another fight. He'll take notes. It's one of these things. He'll then bring you in. He'll show you where the high spots are. You get all this, right? I'm stating the obvious. I'm just sharing with you in some sports, you can't even do it. The reason you can't do it is you can really stop the other guy. So Conor McGregor, who has a left hand, it's just not secret anymore, which just means he has to hide it a little bit better. Very few people have ever been Babe Ruth, where they can walk out to the mound and tell you where they're going to put the ball and then succeed. As a matter of fact, in the world of fighting, I can only think off the top of my head of one guy, which is Mike. Iron Mike Tyson. Everybody knew about the uppercut. Everybody knew about the hook. Everybody knew about the bob coming in, how he was going to avoid the punches. He wasn't doing a pull. He wasn't doing a slip. He wasn't doing the roll. He was going to bob. Trust you couldn't hit him. Get that uppercut and hit you, and he would still do it. He would still do it even if you knew that it was coming. So, Conor doesn't have the advantage of secrecy. He has a very big advantage in speed, length, and power. However, those are no longer secrets to Dustin. Conor will be able to take that kind of speed, so that reactionary devices, the setups and the mechanisms, the mechanics, into other opponents. But this will be his third time with Dustin. So the mask is off. So straight up, no surprises. And when you have a tricky fighter, and Conor is a very tricky fighter, the more you get to know him, the more familiar that you can be. Now, all I've done here is state the obvious for you. I'm looking at what Khabib said. As the fight goes on, does that favor Dustin? Traditionally, yes. Traditionally, it does. And the only piece of evidence that we have for how Conor can do in a rematch is the only rematch that Conor has ever had, which is part 2 versus Nate Diaz. And Conor deserves a ton of credit He learned what he needed to learn. He pulled that punch. One thing about that left hand that Conor throws, it takes a lot of energy. He puts everything into it. And he's only got 3 or 4 of them in the chamber, and all of a sudden it's empty. Well, when he went in there with Diaz part 2, having learned what he learned in part 1, which is even on my best of strikes, I just can't put this guy down. He's too big at that case, too good of a chin. I need to extend that. I need to not put all my power in it. So instead of landing 4 of those, I can land 15 of those through the course of the night. It was just one piece of the strategy. But Conor does deserve the credit and respect that he earned that night, showing that he can adapt and change. Coming into this contest, I only say that for you because Khabib is right. Historically speaking, Khabib is absolutely right. All we would need to do, we don't need to look at Conor's fights. We could just pull up his record on SureDog and see how many of them ended in the first period and see that 100% of those he won. And 100% of the fights that Conor lost were outside of the first period. Boom, Khabib's right. But this one, there's a little bit more to it. There's a little bit more to why Conor can reasonably be expected to do better in rounds 2, 3, and 4 in a trilogy fight than he would in the first meeting with an opponent. There's reasons for this. Conor is doing no media. I spoke with Robin Black yesterday. You guys know Robin. He's got a show in Canada. He lives in Toronto. There's a network called TSN. And I didn't know Conor was doing no media. I've been sitting around looking for Conor in media. Robin revealed to me that Conor has revealed to the world, I'm not doing any. I'm locked down. Full focus, 100% on this fight. Is that good or is that bad? It's a good thing to say, and it sure sounds cool that I sure am focused. I don't fully get the concept because if you are a full-time professional fighter, I mean, you take this serious. This is what you do. You're in the practice room for 3 hours a day. In an absolute worst case scenario, you're putting 3 hours into it. The really, really good athletes don't quite get there because their intensity's too high. They go too hard while they're there. It's called burning hot. They burn red hot. They don't extend. They don't talk. They don't take a whole bunch of water breaks. They are locked in. They're in and out. Your morning workout, which is going to be some level of strength and conditioning traditionally, you're talking about 45 minutes to an hour. If you do it right, that's it. That's all that you'll have if you're doing it right. You'll rest, you'll recover, you come back in the afternoon, now you're on the mat. That means you're gloved up, your headgear, you got your gloves on, you're going to get some live goes in. Again, how long can you do it? When I say 2 hours, I don't know anybody that goes 2 hours. They could be in the room around that hour 40, hour 45 minutes. That's with a warm-up, that's with a cool down, that's with visiting with the boys, the whole bit. I don't know anybody that actually is on the mat and working at a high level of intensity for 2 hours. So when I tell you it's 3 hours of your day, I am rounding up just to make sure that I win, that I'm correct in my statement. So why can't he do media? What in the hell else are you? There's 21 hours in the day, aside from what you're training. Why couldn't you do media? I like media for Conor. I have to acknowledge that because I want to answer this question for you guys. This is not a rhetorical question. When I say, why can't he do media? That's not a question that I don't need an answer to. There is an answer, but here's what it is. He's in Ireland. That's relevant. Geographically speaking, that's relevant. Because what they've done in the past to Conor, because Dublin is not a big media hub, is they fly him to New York, and then they fly him to LA, and then he's got to go back to New York, and he's got to go back to LA. He's away from his gym. He's away from his coaches. He's away from what he's used to do. He's getting workouts at midnight on a treadmill in a hotel room. And he said, I don't want to do that. So it's not that Conor doesn't want to speak to you all or that he doesn't want to tell you how he's training or how he's feeling or to tune in and watch his fight. It's a geographical, logistical change for Conor. And he said, I don't want to do it. I respect it. I got it. You got to have a little bit of it, right? Take somebody outside and beat them up. You'd much rather wait until 1 million people were watching. So you got to have a little bit of both. But this is what's happening with Conor. Look, here's the downside. The downside to it is when Conor's out there talking trash and people think, well, he's trying to get into his opponent's head. That's a piece of it, guys. It's a small piece, okay? Well, Conor's trying to sell tickets. He's trying to get attention. That's a piece of it. But it's a small piece. When a guy's out there talking that way, he's convincing himself, and it works. it's very successful to start saying things out loud and to start to believe them, to start to bring them into your universe, okay? These are very real things. And when Conor isn't doing that, it's also going to be a piece, no matter what size we agree on, that is missing. And one of Conor's big goals here, and whoever threw his arms around him and is overseeing this camp, is to lock in, go back to your roots, do what you used to do. The part they got wrong is screaming from the rooftops about how great he is, convincing himself, hearing himself say it, making his opponent think about it, no matter how small that might be in relation to what people generally think that's done for. They've removed that piece. I don't agree with that. I don't love that. If we're going back to the way things once were, let's include all the pieces. And a little bit of bravado, a little bit of brashness, a little bit of arrogance are ingredients to the recipe of success for the notorious.